Hey everybody, have you heard about this study from Liverpool? This really illustrates how dog culture preys on children. So, according to the study, if you're emotionally unstable, then you're going to be bitten a lot more likely to be bitten. And according to this study, children were at the most risk to be bitten. Now, this study was just done in Liverpool, so that's why some of these numbers don't kind of match up with other statistics because women get bit a lot more than men and have a lot more serious injuries. But in this study, the men were twice as likely. But of course, not everybody visited the doctor, so they don't have all the information. However, the most interesting finding was related to personality. People with higher scores on the Big Five were 22% less likely to have been bitten by a dog. So, some more information about this study is in another article. It'll be down in the description. Have a look at it. But having a nervous personality means that you're more likely to be bitten by a dog, according to this. And what do they mean by nervous personality? They're kind of talking about anxiety or anxiousness. And who out there is the most anxious? Well, our little kids are anxious because they want to discover new stuff. They want to learn about the world. For example, when you put a little kid around a dog, not all kids know that dogs are dangerous and they want to climb on them, pull on them, grab their ears, pull their collar. So you put a little kid like this around a dog and then tell the little kid that you need to act differently. You're telling that little kid to put aside its own humanity. Kids love to learn about the world. They're anxious. Here are some picture examples of what I'm talking about. Like this little kid right here, he's learning about insects and bugs. This little kid over here, he's learning about what's living in the water and the sand. You know, kids love to learn stuff. Like these kids right here, they're learning about scientific principles. They have a lot of anxiousness. Anxiousness also means a desire to do something, a desire to understand your world. Look at all this cool stuff. Discovering how flowers work, like painting. Kids love to mess around with paint and create new images. Kids are very interested in the world. They want to go and explore, open up containers, look through binoculars, all that kind of stuff. So we can't be telling kids to not do this. This is how they develop their minds. This is how they become beautiful people to be friends to other beautiful people later in life. But our culture constantly tells our children to suppress themselves. Here's an article from WebMD. In the end of this article, it says, if your child is afraid of dogs and it impacts your day-to-day life, seek help, talk to your pediatrician about resources, and pursue counseling for your child. They are telling you if your kid doesn't want to be around dogs, that your kid is the problem and you need to go pay a bunch of people to give your kids drugs and counseling so they can be around dogs. They're telling your child to suppress its own instincts. Many kids are afraid to be around dogs. A kid is like 12 inches tall, 24 inches tall, and a dog breathing in their face with nasty dog breath and teeth hanging out, that scares many toddlers. Toddlers do not want to be around dogs naturally. Naturally, kids do not like dogs. We are trying to force kids to put aside their humanity so that we can be dog owners. Look at me, I'm a good dog owner. Meanwhile, you're teaching your kid to suppress its own humanity. Have a look at this article. It's just, I mean, it's like it's child abuse, really. These articles all over the internet tell us that we need to suppress our kids' own human emotions so that we can be dog owners. Now have a look at this article about toddlers. Their little brains aren't capable of fabricating lies like older kids. The older kids are these adults that own dogs. Adults that put their kids in front of dogs and expect their kids to put aside their humanity. These kids know. They have some human instincts. When you have a thing that's sitting there with big old teeth hanging out, little kids know that shouldn't be around me. But you adults that own dogs, you're not that smart. What's going on? Notice, the little toddler brains are wired for truth. That's right. If your toddler doesn't want to be around the dog, get that nasty dog out of there and put that time into your kid instead of into your dog. Stop doing this. How to teach your kids to behave around dogs. Forcing your child to put its humanity aside so you can have a pupper and be a fur mommy. Are you going to tell all these kids right here that they need to go see a psychologist? Mom, Dad, I'm afraid of dogs because my face has been torn apart. Mom, Dad, I'm afraid of dogs because the meat is hanging off of my skin. Are you going to tell these kids, hey, you need to go see a psychologist. Being afraid of dogs, you got a problem. Is that what you're going to tell these kids? Is that what you're going to tell all these parents? All these kids that have had their faces opened up, their blood spilled all over the carpet? You're going to say, oh, you better take your kid to a pediatrician. You are teaching your kids something I mentioned in a previous video. Learned helplessness. It's a terrible habit for future life. When you tell your kid to put aside their instincts and their feelings, you make them have learned helplessness. And I'm going to have to mention it again. Pedophiles and child traffickers, they love kids with learned helplessness because they have to put aside their instincts to be lured into a van or lured into a, oh, hey, we're going to take pictures of you. Come to this apartment. The little kid is like, oh, I don't know about that. But the adults are like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, you're teaching your kid learned helplessness. You know who needs counseling? See this video right here from Inside Edition? This woman needs counseling. You're talking about counseling your kids? You're talking about counseling your kids because they don't need, or I'm sorry, because they don't want to be around a dog? No, these adults need counseling. They need to break this mind virus, this brainwashing of putting your kids in front of dogs. Seeking help? Yeah, you need help. You need to get rid of your dog and quit putting your kid in such danger. According to this, you have to control your emotional responses to not be bitten by a dog. Little kids that have not developed their brain yet, you're telling them they need to control their emotional response. They need to stand there like they're in the military at the position of attention while a dog is chewing on them. No way. You're preying on children and you're telling children to put aside their natural emotions. All of these articles are full of child abuse. Teach your kids about dog safety. No, teach the parents about dog safety and don't get a dog. That's like saying, I'm going to teach my child about chainsaw safety, but I'm going to put a chainsaw in the middle of the room. Kids are curious. Kids are anxious. They want to learn stuff. If you put them in the room with a dog, they're either going to be afraid of the dog and not want to be around it, or they're going to be super curious, and then they're going to get bitten. So no, you don't need to teach your kids anything. The kids already know. You need to teach these adults to quit bringing dangerous dogs into the house. Addressing the fear of dogs. As a parent, your instinct is probably to reassure and comfort your child. Yeah, that sounds important. However, it's important for you to help your child develop coping mechanisms. No, your kid does not need to develop coping mechanisms because you're a fool parent that got too many dogs. They're telling children to develop coping mechanisms for fanged predators. This is like one of the sickest cultures, the sickest, most brainwashed cultures ever. Reducing their fear of dogs. No. Get the dog out of the household and raise your kids. Who cares about dogs? Get the hell out of here. Get some help.